The desert wept when the strangers from the void buried their offering. For cycles beyond counting, the Xan'thi had known the silence of the sands, the way their bioluminescent pulses rippled across the dunes in hymns only the wind could translate. Their roots drank starlight. Their memories grew in rings beneath the skin, etched into chloroplasts that hummed with the history of 1,000 parched generations. But the offering was wrong. It arrived in a vessel of baked earth, a solitary cavalli cactus uprooted, its spines sheared to stubs, its flesh oozing sap like a butchered thing. The Xan'thi gathered, their photoreceptors dimming to funeral violet. To sever a cavalli was to sever a lineage. The strangers had folded its roots into alien soil, wrapped its wounds in garish polymers, and called it apology. Light pulses flared across the glass flats, a cacophony of grief and fury. Elders pulsed the old stories, how the first Xan'thi had clawed from the dunes as half plant, half soul, how their ancestors' fossils still sang in the quartz veins of the canyons. The offering was not peace. It was a corpse posed as tribute, a mockery of symbiosis. Yet, in the shadow of the stranger's orbital scars, a younger philosopher-warrior lingered. Her photoreceptors traced the butchered cactus, its sap pooling in the sand like a question. The cavalli did not scream, as the others claimed. It shivered, as if remembering sunlight. The stranger's ships hung in the sky like sterile moons, blind to the desert's language. But the philosopher-warrior tilted her segments toward the void, her bioluminescence flickering with forbidden curiosity. What kind of beings mourned with one hand and poisoned with the other? And why did their silence sound like a scream? Chapter 1. The neon glare of New Mumbai's embassy district blurred behind Omar Hassan's eyelids as the autocab sped toward the spaceport. He pressed his forehead to the window, watching raindrops fracture the city's light into jagged constellations, like the time he'd bombed at the Cosmic Comedy Lounge a decade ago, sweat pooling under his collar as hecklers threw peanut shells at his shoes. "You're a human punchline, Hassan," one had jeered. He'd laughed with them, throat raw, because silence was worse. Now the memory clung like static. The cab's AI chimed. ETA, 12 minutes. Priority clearance granted for diplomatic shuttle Aurelia. Priority. The word tasted metallic. 3 weeks since the Kessler 7 incident, and EarthGov still hadn't scrubbed the footage from the feeds. A mining colony's misfired orbital drill, the cobalt blue beam slicing through a desert planet's crust like a scalpel through skin. Glassing. A sterilizing accident. Uninhabited, the reports had assured. But Omar had seen the thermal scans leaked by a guilt-ridden engineer, pockets of chlorophyll-rich heat pulsing in the sands, rhythmic as a heartbeat. Life. The shuttle bay reeked of ionized coolant and dread. Lieutenant Mara Cole waited beside the ramp, her posture a study in controlled erosion, back straight, gloved fingers tapping a staccato against her thigh. She didn't salute. "They're calling it Operation Cactus Kiss," she said, jerking her chin toward the cargo hold. Inside, a single terracotta pot housed a saguaro, its spines glinting under artificial sun lamps. Earth's apology. A plant for a planet. Omar crouched, tracing a scar on the pot, his daughter Lila's doing, age 6, when she'd tried to prune his prized bonsai with kitchen shears. "It looked sad, Baba," she'd said. The memory knifed deeper than it should have. Who greenlit this? The same geniuses who thought stand-up comedy was a war crime. Mara's smirk was a flicker, here then gone. She handed him a dossier. Xan'thi photosynthetic sapience. Communication via chlorophyll fluctuations. No known auditory language. No language. No language. No ears. Just light. The jump to Xan'thi space carved hours into minutes via quantum slipstream, but Omar's nerves refused to blur. He dreamt in fragments, his wife Amina's voice. They're not weeds, Omar. They're survivors, her hands buried in Martian regolith, coaxing algae to bloom. She died in a greenhouse collapse, her last transmission a laugh. Tell Lila, the cacti won. The shuttle descended through ochre clouds, revealing a desert sprawl of crystalline mesas. Omar's retinal implants auto-adjusted, overlaying biosigns in searing violet, the Xan'thi. Thousands of them, clustered in fractal patterns across the dunes, their cactus-like bodies shimmering with bioluminescent veins. Dr. Eli Voss met them at the airlock, his lab coat smeared with alien pollen. They're not plants, not like we understand, he muttered, adjusting his spectrometer. Their cells store memories in chloroplast clusters. That cactus, he nodded at the saguaro, now quivering under UV lights, is a corpse to them, a mutilated ancestor. The air tasted of burnt sugar. Omar's palm hovered over the pot. What would Amina do? Apologize with roots, not words. But EarthGov had sent a comedian. The first contact chamber was a glass dome under Xan'thi's twin suns, the light so vicious it felt personal. Tharvk, the warlord, stood 7 feet tall, his body a spire of interlocking emerald segments, thorns bristling like artillery. His bioluminescence flared crimson. Dr. Voss translated via wrist projector. You bring corpse gift. We bring war. Omar's mouth dried. He'd rehearsed speeches in the mirror, borrowed eloquence from dead poets, but now he heard Amina's chuckle. You're sweating like a smuggler at customs, Habibi. He stepped into the light. We didn't know, he began, but the sunlamp's glare drowned his words. Tharvk's spines rattled, casting prismatic shadows. Dr. Voss cursed. Their language is the light. Our lamps are shouting over them. Mara lunged to kill the lights. Too late. Tharvk's core pulsed ultraviolet, a soundless scream. The dome's glass cracked. Outside, the dunes erupted with Xan'thi warriors, their bioluminescence sinking into a tsunami of scarlet. They fled to the embassy bunker, the walls shuddering under plasma fire. Mara rigged the defense grid, her hands steady. We've got 6 hours before their energy relays recharge. Then they glass this rock, us included. Dr. Voss projected a hollow map. Their relays are solar-powered. Kill the light, kill their firepower. Omar stared at the saguaro, now wilting in a corner. Amina's voice. You're good at making people listen, Omar, even when they're screaming. He opened a private channel to EarthGov, the encryption code still muscle memory from his comedy days. The reply was instant. Secure line. Directorate eyes only. Did you know, Omar hissed, about the chlorophyll signatures? A pause. Irrelevant. Secure the truce. The feed died. In the silence, Omar's laughter was a grenade pin dropping. Night fell artificial and abrupt, as Mara overloaded the embassy's solar arrays, plunging the region into darkness. Xan'thi artillery sputtered. Their relays starved. Omar crouched in the bunker, the saguaro's shadow trembling on the wall. Leela's face flashed behind his eyes, her last message, unanswered. Baba, why do we apologize with flowers? Mara tossed him a pulse rifle. You're a shit shot, but you'll do. They moved through the corpse of the embassy, glass crunching underfoot. Dr. Voss deciphered Xanthi light pulses flickering in the distance. Where is corpse giver? We will crush his roots. Omar gripped the saguaro's pot. Survival, not victory. Amina's ghost smirked. Feed the soil, Habibi. Even the dead can grow. When the Xanthi ambush came, it was a storm of light and thorns. Mara took a spine through the shoulder, her blood sizzling where the toxin hit. Go, she snarled, priming a plasma charge. They're jamming the relays. I'll manual override. He hesitated. Her laugh was a rasp. You're not funny enough to die here, Hassan. The blast lit the desert white. Omar ran. The saguaro clutched to his chest, its spines drawing blood. Behind him, the embassy collapsed into a black star, swallowing Mara's name before he could shout it. Chapter 2. Act 2. The Fracture of Diplomacy. The desert night was a living thing. It hissed through the cracks in Omar's enviro suit, its breath laced with silica and the electric tang of distant plasma fire. He crouched behind a crescent-shaped dune, the saguaro's pot digging into his ribs like a reproach. Its spines glinted under Xan'thi's twin moons, their light a sickly silver blue, as though the sky had been dusted with crushed bone. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the ruins of the embassy smoldered, a pyre for Lieutenant Mara Cole. Her name felt like a stone in his throat, unswallowed, unspoken. They'd run for hours, he and Dr. Voss, their boots sinking into sand that seemed to pull at them with gravitational spite. The xenobiologist moved like a ghost now, his lab coat traded for scavenged Xan'thi armor, chitinous plates that clicked like old typewriter keys with every step. He hadn't spoken since the blast. None of them had. Words were too heavy, too human. Omar's retinal implants flickered, struggling to parse the alien topography. Biosigns flickered in his periphery, clusters of violet heat tucked beneath the dunes. Xan'thi scouts, hunting them, hunting the corpse giver. He tightened his grip on the pulse rifle Mara had tossed him, its weight unfamiliar, grotesque. A comedian with a gun. Amina would have laughed. Careful, Habibi, she'd say, her hands wrist deep in soil. Roots don't grow from barrels. The memory was a gut punch. He could still smell her, jasmine and hydroponic fertilizer, the scent she'd worn even in death. 3 years since the greenhouse collapse on Mars, since Lila had stopped speaking to him for a month. Her 7-year-old silence louder than any scream. You weren't there, she'd finally said, her small fists clenched around a wilted orchid. You're never there, Dr. Voss hissed, yanking Omar behind a silica outcropping. A patrol passed, their bioluminescent veins throbbing crimson. The Xan'thi moved like wind through grass, their thorned limbs whispering against the sand. One paused, its photoreceptors dilating as it scanned the dunes. Omar held his breath. The saguaro trembled in its pot, a faint chlorophyll shimmer radiating from its pores. The Xan'thi's spine stiffened. For a heartbeat, Omar swore it saw the plant, saw him, through some primal photosynthetic kinship. Then it moved on, its light pulses fading into the dark. They're hurting us, Dr. Voss muttered. His voice rusted from disuse. He tapped his spectrometer, its screen cracked but functional. A holographic map spiraled into the air, pockmarked with Xan'thi energy relays. Toward the glass flats. No cover. Easy kill zone. Omar studied the map, his comedian's mind weaving patterns from chaos. The relays were solar stations, towering obelisks that harvested the twin suns' fury. Tharvk's artillery was useless without them, but so was everything else in this light-starved wasteland. We take out a relay, he said. We buy time, maybe enough for Earth too. Earth knew. Dr. Voss's eyes were raw, the accusation flaying them both. They knew the Xan'thi were here. The bioscans, the chlorophyll signatures, all buried. To avoid reparations, to avoid guilt, the truth settled like a virus. Omar's hands shook. He thought of the leaked thermal scans, the pulsing green rhythms in the sand. Life. Ignored. Erased.
He'd spent a decade making crowds laugh at the absurdity of existence, but this was a punchline that left bile in his throat. They moved at moonset, when the desert's chill bit deepest. The relay station rose from the glass flats like a blackened tooth, its obsidian surface scarred by solar burns.
Xan'thi guards patrolled its base, their bioluminescence dimmed to near invisibility. Omar counted 6, 7, 8. Too many. Dr. Voss unshouldered a stolen Xan'thi rifle, its organic trigger fused to his glove. Distract them. I'll overload the relay's core. With what? A flicker of the old Voss surfaced, the man who'd once lectured for hours on extremophile bacteria. Their tech is photosynthetic. Too much darkness, and it starves. He nodded at the saguaro. Your plant emits a chlorophyll resonance. Get close enough, and it'll act like a magnet. They'll follow. Use the apology as bait. The irony wasn't lost on Omar. He cradled the saguaro, its spines pricking his palms. Amina's voice. All life leans toward light, Habibi. Even the broken kind. He stepped into the open. The Xan'thi reacted instantly, their photoreceptors flaring solar yellow. Omar raised the saguaro, its trembling leaves casting jagged shadows. You want the corpse giver, he whispered. Come and get him. They charged. He ran. The desert became a kaleidoscope of panic. Sand seared his lungs. Adrenaline warped time. Behind him the Xan'thi's light pulses thrummed, a staccato rhythm that drilled into his skull. Predator, prey, predator, prey. He clutched the saguaro tighter, its roots spilling soil like blood. A plasma round grazed his thigh. He stumbled, vision blurring. Lila's face, smudged with tears. Why do we apologize with flowers? Because he'd begun, but she'd already fled to her room, a slamming door her only answer. A canyon loomed ahead, its walls sheer and glittering with embedded quartz. Omar dove into its shadows, the Xan'thi close behind. Their bioluminescence splashed against the rock, painting the air in feverish hues. He pressed against a crevice, the saguaro's pot cracked now, its roots exposed. Feed the soil, Amina had said, her voice echoing through the years. He buried his fingers in the spilled soil, in the saguaro's roots. The Xan'thi slowed, their light pulses faltering. Confused, the canyon was a cathedral of darkness, and here, in the absence of light, their fury dimmed. Omar's retinal implants flickered, adjusting. The walls weren't quartz, they were fossilized Xan'thi, generations entombed, their bioluminescent veins petrified into ghostly constellations. A tomb. He'd led them into a tomb. Dr. Voss's explosion lit the horizon. The relay station erupted in a helix of green fire, its core destabilized. The Xan'thi howled, a soundless, lightless scream, as their connection to the sun severed. Omar sagged against the stone, the saguaro clutched to his chest, alive. For now, but the desert wasn't done with him. By dawn, they'd regrouped at a derelict survey outpost, its walls pockmarked by sandstorms. Dr. Voss decrypted a priority transmission from EarthGov, a kill order stamped with Omar's face. Traitor. Rogue asset. Eliminate on sight. He laughed, the sound jagged. Of course, the truth was a grenade, and he'd pulled the pin. The saguaro wilted in the corner, its once proud spines drooping. Omar knelt beside it, pouring the last of his water into its soil. Stay with me, he murmured. We're not done yet. Outside, the Xan'thi's war drums pulsed, a new rhythm, not conquest,
Not vengeance. Something older, deeper. Tharvk was coming. Chapter 3. The derelict outpost hummed with the ghostly whine of failing systems, the air thick with the acrid sting of burnt circuitry, and the musk of desperation. Omar Hassan crouched beside a cracked viewport, his breath fogging the glass as he stared into the desert's indifferent expanse. The saguaro sat nearby, its spines drooping like the fingers of a dying star, roots exposed and trembling in the stale air. Dr. Voss hunched over a scavenged terminal, its screen flickering with EarthGov's kill order. Omar's face, pixelated into a grotesque mosaic of betrayal, traitor, rogue asset, eliminate on sight. The words pulsed in time with his heartbeat, a metronome of futility. Amina's ghost haunted the edges of his vision. He could see her kneeling in their Martian greenhouse, dirt under her nails, laughing as she grafted a cactus onto a cherry tomato stem. Symbiosis Habibi, she'd say, her eyes alight with mischief. Even the stubborn can learn to share roots. The memory was a shard of glass in his chest. She'd believed in bridges built from curiosity, not treaties. Now, her voice threaded through his despair, a lifeline he couldn't grasp. Outside, the Xan'thi's war drums pulsed, a deep subsonic rhythm that vibrated in Omar's molars. Tharvk's forces were close, their bioluminescent vanguard staining the horizon a venomous green. Dr. Voss muttered something about solar tides and siege patterns, but Omar wasn't listening. His gaze fell on the saguaro, its once vibrant flesh now ashen, and a reckless idea coiled in his mind. "We need a new language," he said. The words raw. Voss didn't look up. "They don't have language, just light and rage." "No." Omar lifted the saguaro, its weight a familiar penitence. "They have hunger." Voss. The comma ray was a relic of Earth's first colonial push, its dish pockmarked by micrometeorites and draped in cobwebs of alien lichen. Omar wiped dust from a control panel, the screen flaring to life with a diseased yellow glow. A live stream beacon. His comedian's instincts twitched, the absurdity of broadcasting to an audience of genocidal cacti. But Amina's voice persisted. "Make them see, Habibi. Not your words. Your hands." He rigged the transmitter with scavenged parts, fingers moving on muscle memory from decades of wiring punchlines into mic stands. The saguaro lay on a makeshift table, its spines catching the pallid light. Dr. Voss lingered in the shadows, clutching a Xan'thi sidearm. "This is suicide," he said, but the tremor in his voice betrayed hope. "It's dinner theater," Omar replied. He ignited a plasma torch, its blue flame hissing. The first cut was the hardest. The saguaro's flesh resisted the blade, fibrous and unyielding, but beneath the rind, it wept a clear viscous sap that smelled of rain and iron. Omar's stomach churned. Cannibalism, Earth would call it. But Amina had taught him that all life was borrowed, recycled, devoured. "We're all just temporary gardens," she'd whispered once, pressing a seedling into Lila's palm. He roasted the cactus strips over the torch, their edges curling into carbon lace. The scent was earthy, pungent, a smell that clung to memory. Lila's 8th birthday, Amina serving grilled nopal tacos as the greenhouse air recyclers hummed. "See," she'd grinned, juice dripping down her wrist. "Survival tastes better with lime." Dr. Voss handed him a salvaged tortilla packet, its expiration date a decade past. "They'll think you're mocking them." "Good." Omar wrapped the charred cactus in the brittle tortilla. The act sacramental. Mockery is the last prayer of the desperate. He activated the live stream. The holographic projector fizzed, painting the room in spectral light. Thousands of Xan'thi photoreceptors tuned in. Tharvk's war council, the philosopher-warrior Kale Nara, the faceless masses pulsing in the dark. Omar held up the peace burrito, its contours jagged, steam curling like incense. "We honor life by sustaining life," he said, the words addressed to the void. Then he bit. The taste was a thunderclap. Bitter, electric. Memories flooded him. Amina's laughter, Lila's tears, the acid tang of failure. He chewed slowly, letting the cameras parse every grimace, every swallow. The Xan'thi's reaction was instantaneous. Their bioluminescence exploded in a frenzy of ultraviolet and crimson, light pulses so violent they scorched the air. Dr. Voss staggered, his spectrometer overloading. "They're horrified, but curious. They're recording this." Omar took another bite. "Tell them it's a recipe, a shared ritual." Voss translated, his fingers dancing over the cracked screen. The Xan'thi's lights dimmed, then coalesced into a single, oscillating frequency. Kale Nara's signature, a scholar's cadence, measured and probing. "You consume ancestors." Her message pulsed. Omar wiped sap from his chin. "We thank them." Silence. Then a ripple of gold amidst the storm. Boss Tharvk's arrival shattered the moment. His warriors breached the outpost, their thorns screeching against metal. Omar stood, the half-eaten burrito still in hand, as the warlord loomed in the doorway, his bioluminescence, a searing indictment. "You defile sacred flesh." Tharvk pulsed, the light words blistering the walls. Omar stepped forward, heart hammering. "You're right. We didn't understand. But we're trying." He extended the burrito, a offering and a weapon. "Taste it." The warlord recoiled, spines flaring. Yet Kale Nara emerged from the ranks, her segments shimmering aurora green. She plucked the burrito from Omar's hand, her photoreceptors narrowing. A beat, then she bit. The Xan'thi collective gasped in light. Mike. Dawn bled through the viewports as the ceasefire took hold. Kale Nara's faction, intrigued by the culinary bridge, demanded tutorials, not reparations. Tharvk retreated, his light pulses festering with humiliation. In the outpost's ruined kitchen, Omar filmed the first lesson how to roast a rebel spirit, without burning the galaxy. Voss rigged UV lamps to mimic Xan'thi sunlight, their glow softening the room's edges. The saguaro's remains sat in a bowl, its sacrifice immortalized in tacos and terrible puns. "You're mad," Voss muttered, but he smiled as he adjusted the cameras. Omar seasoned the cactus strips with Martian chili flakes. "Comedy's just truth with a rhythm, Doc. They'll learn." As the live stream flared to life, he glimpsed Lila's face in the static, her eyes wide, her hands clutching a potted succulent back on earth. Watching, Amina's ghost breathed approval, in the sizzle of the pan. Chapter 4. The desert held its breath. The air in the derelict outpost was thick with the metallic tang of impending rain, a rare phenomenon on Xan'thi, where storms were less weather than wrath. Omar Hassan stood at the edge of the glass flats, the cracked obsidian expanse, stretching before him like a shattered mirror. In the distance, Tharvk's war camp pulsed with virulent green bioluminescence, a festering wound on the horizon. The ceasefire was a fraying thread, and Omar's hands, calloused from clutching the saguaro's pot, trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of a reckoning he could no longer outrun. Kale Nara found him there, her segmented body, shimmering with the soft gold of twilight. She did not speak, her light pulses muted to a private frequency only his retinal implants could parse. "He comes for you," they flickered. "And for me." Omar nodded. his throat tight. The philosopher warrior had become an unlikely ally. Her curiosity about human rituals, a fragile bridge over an ocean of bloodshed. She carried a satchel of roasted cactus strips now, a peace offering and a weapon, their scent mingling with the ozone-heavy air. "We need to end this where it began," he said, his voice raw. The canyon, the tomb of fossilized Xan'thi, the place where Mara Cole had bought them time with her life. Kale Nara's bioluminescence dimmed, a gesture of respect or mourning. "The ancestors will judge," she pulsed. The canyon walls rose like rib bones of a long-dead leviathan, quartz veins glinting in the stormlight. Omar's boots crunched over petrified Xanthi remains, their bioluminescent fossils casting spectral shadows. Dr. Voss had called it a graveyard, but to Omar, it felt like a cathedral. Somewhere in these shadows, Mara's voice lingered, her final transmission looping in his neural implant. "Sacrifice without honor is just noise." He knelt, pressing his palm to the cold stone. Amina's ghost hovered at the edges of his vision, her hands cradling phantom soil. "You've always known how to make silence speak, Habibi," she whispered. Tharfk's war cry shattered the stillness. His warriors descended the canyon in a cascade of thorns and searing light, their photoreceptors blazing with puritanical fury. Kale Nara's faction flanked Omar, their bioluminescence, a defiant blue, the color of Xanthi morning. He'd learned, or maybe hope. "Corpse giver," Tharfk pulsed, his light words scalding the air. "You poison our sky with lies." Omar stepped forward, the saguaro's last surviving pup cradled in his hands. Its spines were soft, new, a promise he refused to break. "Your ancestors," he said, nodding to the fossils. "Do you hear them?" Tharfk's spines rattled, a sound like bones in a gale. Silence. "No." Omar activated the relay hack. Dr. Voss had jury-rigged a stolen Xanthi beacon, its frequency tuned to the canyon's resonance. "Listen," the relay hummed, a deep tectonic groan. Then Mara's voice echoed through the stone, her final words amplified by the fossil's crystalline matrix. "Sacrifice without honor is just noise." The canyon trembled. Tharfk's warriors froze, their bioluminescence stuttering. Kale Nara stepped into the fray, her light pulses weaving through Mara's voice like a duet. "You fight for empty glory," she pulsed. "They died for growth." Omar's vision blurred, not from exhaustion, but from the crushing weight of memory. Lila's face surfaced, her 8-year-old self tending a seedling in their apartment's window box. "Look, Baba. It's breathing." She'd cupped the sprout like a wounded bird, her faith in its survival absolute. He'd failed her then, too absorbed in EarthGov's lies to notice her quiet rebellion. Tharfk lunged, his thorned arm slashing toward Omar's throat, but Kale Nara intercepted, her segments locking around his in a primal embrace. The warlord's bioluminescence flared, a supernova of rage and shame, before guttering into a dull, ashen gray. "You are no ancestor," he pulsed, the light words crumbling. "Neither are you," Omar said softly. The storm broke as the Xanthi fleet retreated, their light pulses dimmed to a penitent violet. Rain sluiced through the canyon, pooling in the fossil's hollows, their quartz veins glowing like submerged stars. Kale Nara stood beside Omar, her bioluminescence syncing with the rhythm of the downpour. "You bury your dead in soil," she pulsed. "We bury ours in light." He handed her the saguaro pup. "Then let's plant something new." Neither. The treaty was signed under a hybrid sun. Earth-engineered UV lamps filtered through Xanthi prism glass. Omar's daughter Lila stood at his side, her hands stained with alien soil, as she transplanted the first Xanthi human hybrid crop. The seedling's leaves shimmered with chlorophyll and bioluminescence, a fragile symbiosis.
You came back, she said, not looking at him. He knelt, pressing a seed into her palm. I'm trying to. Listen. In the epilogue's hush, Omar stood on the Xan'thi holostage, the spotlight a mimicry of their sunlight. The audience pulsed with colors he'd learned to read. Gold for curiosity, blue for sorrow, green for hope. Turns out, he said, the translator converting his words to light, we're all just trying to photosynthesize happiness.
The silence that followed was not absence but anticipation. Then Kale Nara's bioluminescence flared. A Xanthi laugh, bright and unburdened. It rippled through the crowd, a supernova of understanding, as the first hybrid flowers bloomed in the dark.